Here we are at the beginning. I'm going to be heading to Round Top Lake today by the way of top of Carson Pass. Bit of snow on the trail right now. There's actually a fair amount of traffic. Seems a lot of people have been heading up here, probably trying to check these lakes out for the last time before they are covered in snow. Alright, here we are at Frog Lake. Looks like we got some thin ice. Let's see how thin. Hear those little cracks? Sometimes cracks aren't necessarily a bad thing. This ice seems pretty thin though. So I'm going to show you guys how I'll check ice for safety for ice skating. I like to pick a spot that doesn't have many rocks by it. And you never want to be chipping holes that are over your head, especially if it's your first hole. Boy, this ice looks really nice and smooth though. Oh, it's too thin. Let's see if we can get a hole just with the... Yeah, that is way too thin. I'm afraid I'll get my feet wet if I try to show you guys how thin that is, but let's see if we can bust a chunk out. Ice is very elastic here. Yeah, that doesn't look like any more than 2 inches. Definitely won't be skating this right now. I'm going to get out to a section that... So basically what I'm looking for... Ooh, yeah, that's a spooky sound there. When you hear those little tiny little creak, creak, crack, crack, that's when you know it's really thin. A lot of times when you go out onto the ice, there'll be, you know, tension. The ice is under tension, so when you walk on it or skate on it, it'll crack and release tension, and those cracks will go across the lake. But it's the small little cracks that are the most dangerous. Let's see if we can... Yeah, that's a pretty bad sign. If you can chip through it with a ski pole. Let's see if I can even reach out there without getting wet. Yeah, so that's about 1 inch. Definitely not thick enough. You'd fall in if you tried to skate that today. Alright guys, here we are at Frog Lake. It is, was it the 25th of November 2019, and I came up here just to check the condition of the ice. It's only about 1 inch thick right now, so obviously I'm not going to be going skating. But I want to tell you guys a couple of things about ice real quick before we leave here. Personally, I like to see at least 4 inches thick before I'm going to feel safe, especially skating over deep water. You can skate on really thin ice, you know, especially along the edges. It's real shallow. You're not going to fall in over your head. I don't even think you'd fall in past your knees in a lot of spots on the edges in this lake, but you know, to venture out into the deeper water, if it's really thin, it's a very foolish thing to do. So I might try skating on one of the higher up lakes. There's another lake that's a little higher elevation, and we'll see what happens. But this right here is probably the end of this lake for the season, if I were to guess, because we got snow coming tomorrow. We're supposed to be getting 2 feet up at this elevation, so this lake will get covered completely, and a lot of the high elevation lakes will. But the good thing is some of the medium elevation lakes are still going to be open for skating. So This is a good representation of a pump hole. Sometimes it'll happen when snow falls on a lake. A lot of times the weight of the snow will push the ice down, pushes the ice down enough to where the water needs to find a spot to get through. Those spots are called pump holes. You can see this is an apparent pump hole that found its way through this crack here. The ice is always going to be thinner near these. This is most often where people will fall in if the rest of the lake is safe, is sections where there's pump holes. Also, you got to be careful areas near rocks. The sun bounces off the rocks, obviously creating some solar affected heat, and those rocks will get melted out around there and you can fall in. Alright, here we are at Winnemucca Lake, 8,958 feet. And Winnemucca Lake is much deeper than Frog Lake. I don't even know if I'd call Frog Lake a lake. It's closer to a pond. Winnemucca Lake has some real depth to it and a fair amount of water. So this will be open for future skating after this next storm. So on the GPS here, next to Winnemucca Lake, we have a couple of other, just closed out, let's see. We got a couple of other lakes in here, or ponds. I'm going to check those out after we go to Round Top. So I found this little bit of ice here in this little pond. This is about 2 inches thick. This ice though, if you notice, it's not as clear as the last ice we were walking on. So you got to remember, just because ice is 4 inches thick doesn't necessarily mean it's going to be safe everywhere or 4 inches thick everywhere. The ice that's clear has less air bubbles, so therefore it's stronger. When the ice is white like we saw back there, or a gray color, you know that there's a lot more air bubbles in that, and so it's not going to be as strong. So I would be more careful skating on thin ice that's that color versus ice that's crystal clear. Now that we're up high enough, we can actually see those other small ponds that are near Winnemucca just up above. There's one of them. So definitely we'll be checking that out on the way back. Still got to get to Round Top Lake though. Here we are. Looks like there is ice on Round Top. Part of it's even still shaded. That's a pretty good sign there. The sun does a lot of damage to the ice. Also, ice in the morning is going to be safer than ice in the afternoon. The afternoon ice has had some softening that'll go on throughout the day, being that the sun is baking on it. Also, if the surface gets too soft, you can't even skate on it. Your skates will just dig in. Hopefully, we can maybe skate the edges of this lake. I've never got to skate Round Top Lake, but it's pretty shallow. And it is surrounded by some pretty tall mountains, so that does assist with the shade, especially in the afternoon. I was up here about 7 days ago, and there was no ice on this lake at all. Well, that ice that was over in the sun was a little bit soft for my liking, so we're gonna make our way over to the shady side of the lake, hoping that it'll be a little bit firmer ice, better for ice skating. This is actually looking kind of promising over here. Not seeing any open water. Nice and shady. We'll just be careful and stay on the edge of the lake today. I'm not trying to go swimming. Here we are at Round Top. It's always a little bit spooky to head out and chip your first holes, especially when you're up here alone. You want to make sure to be extra careful not to fall in and just stay on the edges of the lake when you are skating. Got some tension being released already here. Alright, let me get my axe out, we'll chip some holes. That's 4 inches thick. 4 inches thick. Oh yeah, this lake's skatable. Time to throw on the skates. Alright, let me show you guys real quick. So, as you can see, I'm going to stick my hand in here for demonstration. I'm reaching the bottom of the ice. It's coming about to my knuckle. That's roughly 4 inches thick. So, you don't really need a measure tape out here. You just need your hand. Of course, you are going to put your hand in that freezing cold water, so you got to be ready for that. Alright, let's put some skates on. So we're just going to skate around a little bit and test this ice. So see what I'm talking about here. When you get near these cracks, you can actually kind of see the thickness of the ice too. So as you're skating along, you're going to want to gauge that. But it's really important to chip holes in the ice. And just because you see some idiot out there skating doesn't mean it's safe. You always want to check it yourself. And that's one of the thrilling things about skating these backcountry lakes, is they kind of talk to you, they crack and moan, grumble, and it's actually kind of interesting. It has a bit of a spook factor to it. If you skate into a section that you haven't skated into a bit and it cracks and pops right under your weight. See if we can get a little bit farther over to this side. Whew, it is getting cold out here. I would not want to take a swim right now. It's getting real chilly out here at Round Top. I'm about to leave. It is 5 after 2 and I don't have much life left on my battery, it looks like. So that was a beautiful day though. It's pretty cool that I was able to skate this today. I've always wanted to. It's always been one of my dreams. So here we are, making dreams come true.